Well, good morning, everyone. Oh, everyone eating already? I think there's only like a few. The lights are blinding me, so I can't see in the back, but it looks like there's only a few people left in line. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning again, everybody. My name is Brian Ritter. I'm the president of the Bismarck-Mandan Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you all this morning to this year's State of the Cities. Of course, today's State of the Cities also marks Election Day, so if you haven't, make sure that you get out and vote. I shirked my civic duty for the last couple of weeks. I did not do some proper planning. So after this, if you want to follow me over to the Bismarck Event Center, I'll be waiting out in line with the cold with everybody else. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started because I want to respect your schedules and make sure you can get over and wait in line with me after this. We're going to start off this morning with today's invocation from Pastor Les Wolfgram. Pastor Wolfgram has served as pastor at Shepherd of the Valley Lutheran Church in Bismarck since 1998. He is married to Denise, who serves as principal and teacher at Martin Luther School here in Bismarck, and they have 3 grown children. Pastor Wolfgram has served as chaplain with Crisis Care Chaplaincy since 1999 and currently serves as senior chaplain for the North Dakota Highway Patrol. In addition to his duties as pastor and chaplain, he is very active with People Matter in Bismarck, a local organization that seeks to bridge the gap between people in need and the resources available to meet those needs. The Wolfgrams enjoy their property northeast of Bismarck with their pug Marley and their yellow lab Jasper. So with that, Pastor Wolfgram, please come to the stage.
Would you pray with me? We begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Eternal Lord, ruler of all, as we approach Election Day today in this nation, we pray that you would graciously regard those who have and will be set in positions of authority among us, that guided by your Spirit, they may be high in purpose, wise in counsel, firm in good resolution, and unwavering in duty, that under them we may be governed quietly and peaceably. We thank you for the freedoms that you have provided for us in the United States of America. We especially thank you for the many men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces and for the sacrifices they have made to protect us and our freedoms. We ask you to watch over all who currently serve in the military, police, firefighters, EMTs, and all emergency personnel. Protect them from physical harm and give them peace in Christ. We thank you for our communities of Bismarck and Mandan, and for our leaders, especially for our mayors. Continue to bless them with health and wisdom, that with their leadership, our communities will continue to thrive and be a great place to live and raise our families. We thank you for the meal that has been prepared for us. May it give us nourishment for our bodies, and that the time of fellowship with one another be a blessing. We thank you for all the blessings you so freely bestow on us. Greatest of all, the gift of your Son, Jesus, whose death and resurrection won for us forgiveness of sins, life, and salvation. Be with us today and grant us your peace. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Wolfgram. This event would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors today and our leadership as well. So we want to thank everyone, including our presenting sponsor, Midco, our gold sponsors, AE2S, the Bismarck-Mandan Board of Realtors, KLJ, Liberty Business Systems, MD Resources Group, and Alltech Engineers. Our event sponsors, Aetna, Bank of North Dakota, Bartlett and West, Base Electric Power Cooperative, Houston Engineering, Sanford Health, and of course, our media sponsor, HB Sound and Light. Please help me give a warm round of applause to all of our sponsors and leadership for making today's event possible. I do want to give a special mention and a special thank you to today's presenting sponsor, Midco. And at this point, I'd like to welcome to the stage for a brief message, Midco's Senior Director of Government Relations, Justin Forty. As the Senior Director of Government Relations for Midco, Justin oversees the company's state, federal, and local government operations in 5 different states. Before joining Midco, Justin worked as Regional Director for Senator Hoeven's office, Development Manager for Bismarck State College Foundation, and the Assistant Director of Marketing for NDSU. He earned his bachelor's degree from Northern State and his master's from Florida State. Help me welcome to the stage Mr. Justin Forty from Midco.
Thank you for attending today's State of the Cities breakfast. It's great to be here with so many friends and leaders in our community as we hear from our 2 outstanding mayors. We're excited to sponsor today's event, and we are proud to be your technology company. We could not be more grateful for all of you choosing us as your technology company and letting us be such a part of your connected lives at home and at work. We consider it a privilege to join you and the members of this Chamber of Commerce to build a strong and dynamic community. Since 1931, Midco has been devoted to providing innovative services and an exceptional customer experience. We invest to continue that tradition of staying one step ahead of ever-changing technology to serve you. Over the last 3 years, we've invested nearly $30 million here in Bismarck-Mandan. Last year, that investment made Bismarck and Mandan gig cities. That speed is over 35 times faster than the average high-speed internet, and we've made it available to our entire Bismarck-Mandan service area. We've invested in this state-of-the-art infrastructure to make sure that you had access to those world-class speeds. This commitment is delivering and impacting innovation, business, economic development, and so much more right here in Bismarck and Mandan. This is some of the most affordable and accessible gig internet in the country, available at every address. But today, I want you to know that we're not done. We're just getting started here, and there's a lot more to come from Midco and Bismarck and Mandan. We are here to innovate for you, to empower you, to inspire you, our customers, our friends, and our neighbors. We are excited for this business community, for the city of Bismarck and the city of Mandan, and we cannot wait to see what you will do with a Midco connection available everywhere, and more great products to come from Midco. The backbone of our company is our people. We're extremely proud of our team here in Bismarck and Mandan, and I would like to recognize our team who is with us today. These folks work tirelessly to make sure our systems work and that you get the customer service that you expect from Midco. If our team would stand, would you please give them all a round of applause? Nothing in our community just happens. Leadership and partnerships matter. Leadership matters. Thank you, Mayor Bakken and Mayor Helbling, for your leadership in our community and in our state. Partnerships matter. Midco is proud to partner with this chamber, our cities, our universities, and our nonprofits, and most importantly, you, our customers. We couldn't do what we do without you. Midco is proud to connect Bismarck and Mandan to each other and to the world. Thank you again for joining us at today's State of the Cities.
Every trailblazer has a story. Long days, late nights, and an unstoppable drive to do what you love. At Midco, we salute innovators like you because we too are working hard to break new ground with advanced business technology, managed services, and targeted advertising that work as hard as you do. Whether you're a company of 1 or 1,000, Midco Business can work for you. Ready to Midco? Let's go.
All right, 10 minutes in, we're still on schedule. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep rolling, folks. We're 7:40. Ready to go? Mr. Mayor, Steve Bakken, you ready to do this? Here we go, number 1. Bismarck Mayor Steve Bakken was born in 1968 in Grand Forks, North Dakota, started his broadcasting career at the age of 12 and attended UND. Over the course of his 34-year broadcasting career, he's had the opportunity to work in major markets, but has always returned home right here to North Dakota. As host of What's on Your Mind and Energy Matters on KFOR 550, and as the owner of his own consulting firm, he's honed his ability to listen to issues, work through solutions, build many relationships with political, business, and community leaders across our region. In 2011, he was afforded the opportunity to put down roots here in Bismarck, where he met his wife, Wendy, who works in the Bismarck Public School District. With that, I would ask that you help me all welcome Bismarck Mayor Mr. Steve Bakken to the stage.
Thank you, Brian. Nice to see you got a late start on No Shave November, but you'll catch up, quite sure. Sorry. Thank you, and I'm glad everybody could attend today. What a great honor to speak for the city of Bismarck and the communities, and I have an opportunity to share a little bit of vision with what's going on in Mandan and region. I look at, from an economic development perspective, Bismarck, Mandan, Burley, and Morton County. We're a metro, which means we're a pretty tight-knit family. We need to work together to accomplish some great things. So that's kind of my tact as mayor. And, we've got a wonderful staff that I'm fortunate enough to help share in that vision. as we're moving forward as well. So with our presentation today, I'd like to run you through some of the things that we're looking at and where we're going with the city of Bismarck. So first and foremost, Justin, what was I tell you about IT failures? Told you. There we go. On this chart here, you'll notice where we are and where we're going from a job creation standpoint and what the workforce is, because workforce is what drives a lot of the pieces that come into our community. Those are the economic pieces. And what I preach to staff all the time is, at the end of the day, it's about growing tax base. We have to continue to grow our tax base to grow as a community. So I look at our community as a metro. Now, if you take a look at the top three lines here, the total employment numbers, we're at 74,000. The mining, logging, construction, we're at 58,000, both continuing to grow. The one that's a little concerning to me is the manufacturing side. That's the missing piece for our economic portfolio. That's down. That's an area that I see room for exponential growth, and that's something we need to have a concerted effort in addressing some of those issues. You know, metros are important because individual cities bring their own unique skill set to the table. Whether it's West Fargo, Grand Forks, Fargo, Minot, Dickinson, Williston, they each have their own nuances which make them attractive for various businesses. You know, we're not competing with individual cities. We're looking at the full portfolio and where we compete with, and that's on the metro basis. Metros encompass that broader palette, and this is where we compete on a regional level, not just a local level. And our metro, Bismarck, Mandan, Burley, Morton County, and that's why that is very important to have a little bit of a larger picture in that. You know, so when you start looking at economic development, you know, one of the numbers here is you take a look at the workforce, and our metro is a regional hub. So when you add up the numbers between Bismarck, Mandan, and Lincoln, we're at 98,843 members of the workforce. That's out of a combined Burley-Morton population of 125,826. So you see Bismarck, Mandan, Lincoln, that metro is a sizable number within our two counties. So then you take a look at the economic development side. What we've had is long-term sustainable growth for Bismarck, and factors of that are the fact that we're a regional hub for medical care, for the retail side of things, for education, and for the quality of life that we bring. So when you combine those things, that is why this number continues to trend. Now the next one is the Bismarck Metro population projections, and as you can see, we do have long-term sustainable growth. The bottom line is Bismarck. The upper line is Burley County, and you can see where the population trends continue, making Bismarck a vital part of Burley County in that we supply a large number of workforce, whether it's regional or around the state. You look at the number of people that commute in and out of Bismarck, in and out of the community for their workforce opportunities. You know, based on the projections from the City of Bismarck Community Development Director, historic trends and forecast projections, our area is expected to grow to 112,767 inhabitants in the City of Bismarck and 147,215 inhabitants for the whole county by 2040. Between 1930 and 2010, the population for the City of Bismarck averaged 2.8 annual growth, and the population of Burley County averaged 2.1% annual growth. Continued growth for the city and county is expected at 2.9% and 2.7% respectively till 2020, and then falling to 2.1 annually till 2030 and 1.8 annually till 2040. And that's where having a focus on the economic growth and what factors we can bring in to try to keep that number up a little bit needs to be a community focus. On the economic development front, when you look at this chart, I like to look at this one and take out the peaks. So you draw a line from the first dot to the last point. That's steady growth. And when you look at the community development application trends, there's an overall increase from 2000 to 2018, but we've got a lot of peaks and valleys. And that's a difficulty for community planning and for the business world to make assumptions based on a chart like this. But the one assumption you can maintain through this is the fact from the first data point at 2000 to the last data point at 2018, take out the peaks, and that's a steady growing line. As far as economic development, you can see the businesses that we're growing and bringing into the community of Bismarck. We've got 3 banks that have come in. New North grocery store development currently taking place. 1 new parochial school. The medical clinics, surgery center, dentistry, orthodontics. Good road recovery center. Heartview expansion. Supportive housing with the Edmonton place that they've broken ground on. Restaurants, brewing, office, retail, cultural, Gateway to Science Center, Heritage River Landing, which is being built. We've got all these economic development pieces coming into the community. These are all additions to the community. What's missing, though? When I look at line items like this, where's the room for growth? And I'm always a glass half full guy, but where is that room for growth? What do we need to be looking at? Where are the other places that we can pique that interest and start pushing things in new directions to bolster what we already have? Because we've got a great palette. We've got a lot of great things up there, but what are the missing pieces? For me, some of that's manufacturing and technology. And those are some of the areas that we need to look at economically to continue to balance out our economic development portfolio. Quality of life, and the reason this is important is it plays right into that workforce and some of those workforce numbers. When you look at the quality of life, what we have in the city of Bismarck, we're ranked number 5 best state capitals to live in, according to Wallet Hub. Did I skip one? Oh, I did skip one. I apologize. I'll come back to that in a minute. One of the things that plays into that economic development is the education and enrollment. And when you take a look at what we're blessed with here in Bismarck from an educational perspective, we've got 3 schools of higher education here. We've got an amazing public school system, the number 1 school system in the country, or in the state of North Dakota, and 2 of them competing for the state championship in football this weekend in Fargo, which maybe we should hold the Dakota Bowl in Bismarck. I'd kind of be up for that. But if you take a look at some of these enrollment numbers, and one of the things I've always done is you look at enrollment numbers, because if you want to find out where a community's going and where they've been, start looking at some of those enrollment numbers with the public school system, because you can tell how much of a growth factor your community is going to be having. So public school enrollment numbers are a strong indicator of where that community is growing. So with the higher ed side of this, that plays into the retention of local and the local landscape for the retention and attraction from outside the community, as well as retaining those students that grow up within the community. Now, if you take a look at the numbers for our 3 institutions of higher education, you'll notice that UTTC enrollment, that's the only one that's had a decrease. Well, the factor for that is the fact that they've had a decrease due to a new policy that requires all students to complete their FAFSA prior to being admitted. So basically that is just a clerical policy, which they'll catch up on. University of Mary had to cap their enrollment due to space constraints and housing this year, which is unprecedented. And BSC, they're becoming a polytechnic. So they're going to have exponential growth as well. So we've got 3 pillars within our community for higher education to continue what public education and our private education schools on the parochial level lead into. So we've got that great ability to build workforce and attract new types of jobs, the higher tech jobs, the manufacturing jobs right here in our community. Now, getting back to the quality of life, we're number 5 best state capitals to live in according to Wallet Hub. We're number 8 on the list for best city to start a business in according to Wallet Hub. We're top 100 best places to live as far as livability, and that's directly the quality of life. Where do you want to raise a family? Best small place for business and careers, that according to Forbes magazine. So what does the quality of life do? It affords us the ability to attract employees, having that highly educated workforce, which also attracts employers and gives us those opportunities to bring new business into the community. It also retains employees. It brings former residents and students home. And one of the first and foremost things that I want to address as mayor of Bismarck is, when we're all young, the first thing we all wanted to do was leave our small hometown and go see the world and go see what else is out there. But I want Bismarck to be the first place people want to raise their family. So as our young people have left the community, they want to come home. I'm going to raise a family. I'm 25 or 30 and putting down roots, raising a family. Think of home. Think of Bismarck. That's first and foremost on the list of where you want to be to have that quality of life for your family. We've got the Gold Star Community Task Force, which addresses some of the issues from a community perspective as far as behavioral health and substance abuse, prevention and education efforts. Here we utilize evidence-based strategies to decrease underage drinking, binge drinking, and opioid misuse. Narcan first responder training in Bismarck-Mandan, Lincoln, Burleigh, and Morton counties. Increased Narcan availability through community education and distribution to respond to overdose emergencies. Working towards a community solution for intoxication management, a social detox in Bismarck-Mandan, Lincoln area. That's one of the things we're looking at right now. Treatment and recovery. We have improved access to treatment and recovery services and medication-assisted treatment. We're starting to get those resources spooled up to deal with what's missing from a community support mechanism. There's been a lot of things thrown at some of these issues, but getting them all on the same page and getting them all spooled up together so it's a sum of the parts approach and getting those resources focused so everybody doesn't have to take as big a bite is very important, and that's what this task force does. I was joking with our Public Works Director on the west side, Michelle Closey, at a commission meeting. At some point, we're just going to start dedicating commission meetings to the work that her staff and she does as well. The accolades received by our Public Works Department and those other entities on this list, they show what a dedicated staff we really are fortunate to have. And when you have a staff working for the community and working for the city and city employees that are that dedicated to the vision of the city and improving what we already have, we're blessed in that manner. In 2018, Bismarck received the best tasting drinking water in North Dakota. Bismarck Public Works Utility in 2018 also received the Excellence in Resourcefulness Award. Bismarck Veterans Memorial Public Library, North Dakota Star Library Award in 2018, which is extremely prestigious. Bismarck Parks and Recreation District, National Accreditation 2018. That CAPRA, having that park and rec system that we have with the trail system and all the amenities that brings to us, we're truly, truly fortunate for that. Also, the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, which is a huge benchmark for community government. Next to talk about public safety, and I was fortunate enough to be at the ribbon cutting for our latest facility. Bismarck Fire Department, the new fire station for the ribbon cutting was absolutely phenomenal. Then I had an opportunity to go with the staff at a later date and see the training facilities that are adjacent to that facility, which was part of the impetus of why that facility was put there. Because the burn building training site, it's utilized across the state. It's not just for Bismarck firefighters. So it's an opportunity to improve the safety for our firefighters who directly influence our quality of life through the public safety aspect. Another thing we just had in this past year, on June 12th, the county 911 free ballot measure passed during the primary election for Central Dakota Communications Center. So what that brings on board is Burleigh County authorized the ballot measure for the June 12, 2018 primary election, increased the 911 fees by 50 cents for the purpose of purchasing, leasing, or constructing and operating the new public safety communications center for the county. Measure passed with over a 60% margin. That directly bears into the public safety and that quality of life here in Bismarck. Bismarck Police Department. Chief Dreyevich named new police chief with Dan Donlin retiring. And, Dave, thank you and congratulations on your new position. But he's got big shoes to fill, and he's going to do them admirably. So when you take a look at what our police department has had to deal with over the last several years, coming off the tail end with the oil boom, and how that department's had to grow and morph and meet to change the needs, they've done an admirable job. Some of the accolades, they're CLIA reaccredited with excellence in 2017, 128 sworn officers authorized for 2018, one officer to be added to the airport in 2019, 43,327 calls for service in 2017. That was up from 8.2% from 2016, which really exacerbates the fact that police officers are public servants, and they're there to help serve the community and make sure that we're all safe, and they do an admirable job of that. They've got 2 canines that add to the canine unit, which is funded by citizen donations, and 1 protective vest for a canine was received through a grant. And if you haven't done so, please go pick up your 2019 canine calendar. It goes for supporting those canine units, which I think everybody realizes are an integral part now of our police force. You can get them, by the way, at KT's Animal Supply. The canine officers have them, or you can pick them up at the Bismarck PD. The airport, if you've flown in or out of the Bismarck Airport, you've seen exponential growth, the new runway project. That's a big undertaking, and I want to commend Greg Haug and his staff at the airport for doing an incredible job out there. Their ability to maneuver, their ability to go out and find those grants and find that funding mechanisms, and to be able to maneuver within, at the drop of a dime, within federal constraints that FAA regulations afford, are absolutely amazing. The Phase 2 runway reconstruction project, Phase 3 final phase to be constructed in 2019. All the pieces are in place for that now. That's a total cost of a runway of $62.8 million, $44.3 million federal funds, $3.1 million state funds, and $15.4 million local funds. So year to date, September 2018, 206,870. That's up from 2021, or 1% over 2017. UAV industry continues to grow. That's another focus that is starting to be on the radar with our airport improvements that we can capitalize on. North Dakota is a leader in the emergency industry, and those larger UAVs and larger ranges, they're starting to spread out and have different applications, and that brings our airport right to the forefront of being in line for some of those projects. As far as the infrastructures, we're currently working with Public Works, wastewater treatment plant, rehabilitation of the 2 existing trickling filters, added a 3rd trickling filter and pump station. Public Works Utility doing a cost of service and rate design study for water, sewer, and stormwater. That is all meant to be able to be more efficient with the resources that we bring to the community and a better use of our tax dollars. Also, the Tavis Road outfall for flood protection during high Missouri River levels, which we found very, very, very convenient to have that project in place for this year. Public Works Services, they closed disposal cell number 2 at the landfill, and that's constantly an issue that we're looking at as far as how to improve service and what we need with the landfill. As far as the infrastructure, we've got a couple things on ballot measures that if you're following over with Brian to vote today, you'll see a couple city measures on, and staff, Keith Hunke and Jason Demonic and staff have done an incredible job of getting the information out. Brian Ritter and his organizations have done an incredible job getting the information out, not to spur a direction to vote, but just to lay all the facts out there on what some of these ballot measures do for, or the position it puts the city in if they should pass or fail, and some of the latitudes that we'll have, we'll know a little bit more after today. As far as strategic plan, we're currently going through our new strategic plan. Phase 1 started off with a launch and learn, had focus group meetings, a couple city commission meetings to get that information out. Most recently held an interactive town hall on November 1st. The response to that has been about 4%, which is higher than normal for most communities that when they're doing implementation of strategic plan as far as gathering the data. As far as the phase 2, that's research and development, city commission workshops, meet with students in classrooms, that's coming up. Finalize the vision and values. We're going to have internal team workshops, a SWOT analysis, and finalize the strategic focus areas. Coming back to the vision of the future, for me, it's about that metro and those relationships that we have with Mandan, Lincoln, Burley, and Morton County. To build those relationships further is what's going to make us successful, and that's what leads to a great future for the community of Bismarck. One other thing I wanted to touch on, where we have a great economic development opportunity, is we have an incredible waterfront. We've got the one river and thing that no city in the state has, other than Mandan, and it's vastly underutilized. Having a developed waterfront, such as communities like Dubuque, Iowa, and some other communities that have developed their waterfront to bring that economic development piece and the tourism piece and those other avenues of economic resource into our community, rather than, well, let's go to the lake for the weekend, let's run to Minnesota for the weekend. It's like, no, come to Bismarck. Bringing that economic piece here is absolutely vital, in my opinion, for the future of Bismarck and our metro area. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll return back over to Brian.
Great job. Very good job. All right, folks. So, whoa. It's a little loud, right? Tone it down just a bit. Now, as we get the next presentation queued up for Mayor Helbling, I want you to keep in mind two things. One, I have the mic, I have the stage, I'm going to give you a shameless plug. So, December 11th, we have the Chamber's Holiday Mixer. That will be over at the Bismarck Event Center. If you're interested in attending, you can do so that night. It's going to cost $5 and a business card at the door. If you want a booth at that Holiday Mixer, make sure that you find Ross or Shay from the Chamber team. That's the first plug. Second plug, Chamber Annual Dinner, January 24th, over at the Bismarck Event Center. If you don't have a table yet, you want to have those great seats, see my face, and my beard might still be growing at that point. That's the best I get. These are the jokes, folks. This is what we have at 7:30. If you want to get a table for the annual dinner, again, January 24th, over at the Bismarck Event Center, talk to Shay from the Chamber team. You can find her around the hall. Second thing, as I mentioned, today is Election Day. As you heard Mayor Bakken talk about, there are a couple different measures on the ballot directly relating to the city of Bismarck. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm not going to tell you which way you think you should vote. What I am going to tell you is it relates to City Measures 1 and 2. The Chamber's Board of Directors, as well as the Board of Directors from the BMDA, have voted unanimously to support the passage of both measures. We have worked very hard over the last 45 days to get as much information out there as possible. We've had public input sessions, we've had stuff on social media, we put stuff in the Chamber Connection. We want to make sure that you're educated voters. We want to make sure you understand what you're voting on. So please bear that in mind when you head to the ballot today, when you head to the voting box today. And again, if you want to come with me, I'll give you a ride. It's not that much further over. With that, we're going to roll right into Mayor Helbling's presentation. Mayor Tim Helbling has been mayor of Mandan, essentially his second stint since 2016. Prior to that, he was the mayor from 2008 to 2012. Before that, spent 10 years as city commissioner, and before that, 10 years as a Mandan Park Board member. He's also the general manager co-owner of Corral Sales and L&H Manufacturing, so please help me give a very warm welcome to Mandan Mayor Tim Helbling. Thanks, Tim.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to start off by thanking you for taking some time out of your busy morning this morning to spend some time with us. I'd also like to thank Brian and the Chamber staff for putting on this wonderful event. And I'd also like to congratulate Mayor Bakken. I look forward to working with you on every issue that we can that betters our two communities. We're going to start off this morning by showing a little video. We think it's very important that to look into the future, the first thing you need to do is recognize where you came from in the past and make sure you respect that past. So if we could have the video, please.
Mandan, North Dakota is more than a great place to work and play. It's home to some of the most scenic and historic attractions in America. From Native American villages to railroad pioneers, this is where the West really begins. This is history made in Mandan.
It's a very special place. In Lakota, this is called Heart River Country.
Overlooking the Missouri River, Fort Abraham Lincoln State Park lets you experience early American history firsthand. Here, the Anaslant Village was home to more than 1,000 Plains Native Americans. Lewis and Clark explored the New World, and Custer readied the 7th Cavalry for the Battle of the Little Bighorn.
Variety that goes on here of history, of United States history. We're a one of a kind. You can camp here year round. We have monthly hikes. There's a lot for everybody to do.
Just off Interstate 94 in northwest Mandan lies the North Dakota Railroad Museum. Explore railroad history through railroad cars, artifacts, pictures, a Hall of Fame, and steam engine rides.
Mandan grew up because of the railroad. And I think there's something for everyone, for the young and old. We got 5 acres up here that they can run around and enjoy themselves.
And take a look into Mandan's past at the former train depot, Heritage Plaza. Or on the historic Home Walk, which opens the door to the history of more than 40 Mandan homes. To learn more about all the history and culture Mandan offers, visit cityofmandan.com/things to do.
I think that's a very important video. A lot of times people tend to focus on the things that we don't have in our community, and we overlook the things that just come natural to us. And I think that's one of our biggest flaws that we have, is we have so many good things happening in the Mandan-Bismarck area that we just don't pay attention to, although they're right under our noses. Okay, this is something we're very proud of. Mandan was recently named number 2 in the best cities to live in America by 24/7 Wall Street. Generally, it's the Bismarck metro area that's named on all of these, so we're very proud of this fact. They note the low cost of living, the low unemployment rate, and the low crime rate. So 3 other North Dakota cities also made this list. I know it's focused on the mayors this morning, but behind every mayor is first off a good wife, and then a great group of city commissioners and a great staff. We have Commissioner Scott Davis, Commissioner Dennis Rohr, Amber Larson, who's in the audience here today, and Commissioner Mike Brown. We have a lot of new leadership within the city of Mandan this year. First off, we have Public Works Director Mitch Bitts. What's really unique about Mitch is he actually took a pay cut to take this position. He's a very unique individual who has a lot of public experience as he's worked for the city of Mandan for over 20 years, but he's also a very successful business owner. So that's a unique aspect. He has a lot of common sense. He realizes that just because an engineer or the government says it's right, in the real world, that might not be the case, and he can bring that to the forefront, and he's doing very well doing that. We have a new HR director in Brittany Cullen, Battalion Chief and John Heldemeyer, City Assessor Kimberly Markley, a building official Sean Ordernick, and our city planner John Van Dyke. When we were looking through this, it takes a lot of people to make a good city, and we have 18 different boards that serve and help advise the city commission. We look for input from many, many sources. We try not to be one-sided just because I think it's right or a commissioner thinks it's right. It isn't necessarily right. So we have 112 different members on that, including staff liaisons that assist with city governance and community development. People always say that, I don't want to get on a board, one person can't make a difference. That's not the case at all. In a city the size of Mandan, I always tell them, just think if every one of them 112 members just came up with one good idea, that makes a huge difference. So everybody can make a difference. Thank you to all those who volunteer for these boards and committees, and also thank you to all the employers that allow your employees to take time off to serve on these. That makes a huge difference in our community. We were going to have a moment of silence in remembering Rayanne Kelch, but anybody that knew Rayanne Kelch, when it came to education or the city of Mandan, there was no silence. She was always a great advocate for the community, for education. She'll be greatly missed. Her husband, Tom, was a past Mandan City Commissioner, and the Kelch family has been long-rooted in the community. So rest in peace, Rayanne. Mandan's a much better place because you were with us. Some of today's topics that we're going to go over, we were told to kind of keep it short, although we probably didn't, but we're going to talk about economic and community development, dollars and cents, city services, progress and plans, and around town. We'll start off with economic and community development. This is a slide showing the commercial and industrial permits. You'll notice we had roughly $23 million in 2017, $14.1 million to date. And if you look at the graph on the side, we've had a few really up years, but it's a nice steady growth. We haven't been lacking for industrial. We've made a lot of progress over the past 10 years. The restaurant rewards program, we've really listened to the community of Mandan, and the people said, we want restaurants, we want restaurants. Typically that's not the city's job to go out and try to get restaurants. We worked hard for many years to try to do that. Ellen and Brian, they worked very hard, and they came up with this restaurant rewards program, which we implemented a few years ago. Citizens asked for more restaurants. Well, as a city, we're going to give them to them. They don't just come naturally like they do in Bismarck. We've had six new restaurants in the program since 2016, 3 of them in 2018 alone. And what's interesting, if you look at this picture, this is the Culvers that just opened. That's Sammy and Harry Wong. They're Mandan residents. They owned the rice bowl before. They stepped up to the plate, saw a need, and saw an opportunity, so we really appreciate that. The other 2 restaurants so far this year, Grand Junction Grilled Subs, had a successful operation here in Bismarck, Colton Schultz, and he decided to look at Mandan to try to service the south side of Bismarck as well as Mandan. And then another very interesting one is Bennigan's, has a lot of Mandan ties. Rob Knoll and Monty Stein opened up this restaurant. The unique thing about this, they're both Mandan residents. Rob was on several of those boards when we're trying to get restaurants. He said he looked in the mirror one day and he said, why not me? So Rob took a stab at it. he reached out. He liked the Bennigan's franchise, and it so happens the Bennigan's franchise, the main Bennigan's, is owned by another Mandan native that we all went to school with, Gwendy Bachmeyer. I can't remember her married name right now, so there's 3 Mandan ties in that. So as if you look at me, you can tell that I'm supporting all these new restaurants, trying to keep them going and healthy. So if you get a chance, they all have great food. Get out and give them a try. Business outreach. We've done a lot of business outreach. Again, thanks Ellen and Carrie and Brian for what you do here again. Get Your Business Online Workshop, the Downtown Tap-In Tour, the 6th Annual Business Startup 101. We had nearly 80 participants in that. And then coming up November 13th at the Harvest Event Center, the Business Pitch Challenge. And what that is they invited entrepreneurs to bring forward a business plan and dream a little bit. You want to open up a business? Come put something together. They presented it to a group of folks who looked over those proposals. They narrowed the proposals down. And then on November 13th, they're going to whittle them down to the last one. And the winner of that program, if he starts a business, will receive a $10,000 forgivable grant from the city of Mandan to start that business. So we're trying to encourage people from within to invest in the community. It's worked really well. I know with Dielectric Brewing came out of a lot of this. I mean, the Harvest, a lot of this came right from homegrown things that we did in Mandan. We are very honored this year that the governor chose Mandan as one of his Main Street visits. Discussion and listening session. About 75 city, county, park, and school officials attended, along with the business leaders. The analysis of the strengths and weakness, opportunities and threats. We recognize the quality of life improvements on Mandan Main Streets, investing and improving in restaurants and retail. We noted the growth to the north is super expensive in Mandan. We're not as fortunate as Bismarck and Fargo that you can go out in almost any directions and there's flat land. In Mandan, we pretty much use up every bit of flat land that there is, and it's challenging to get to another growth area. We've had a couple of properties that have been vacant for many years, the former Central Market on the west side of Mandan and the Thrifty White Drug. These properties have been up for sale. We've been trying through realtors and trying to assist the building owners to do something with these buildings to get somebody in there. That wasn't happening. So the city used some remediation trust fund dollars, no tax dollars. We purchased these 2 properties. Our initial thought was to move the library into one of these and then have a small event or gathering space in the other part of it, and then some commercial mixed-use space on the east corner of the properties. Well, we had a few business people in the community that didn't think that was too good of an idea and asked us to, for one more time, go out for an RFP and see if we can get somebody that's interested in developing these properties and putting them back on the tax rolls. One of the reasons the city went aggressively after these properties is the owners were telling us the only interest they had was from church groups. And not that church groups are bad, but this just isn't the right place for a church. We already have our former KC building, which is on the corner of Collins and First, which is owned by a church group, so that it's used, once a month, I think maybe. The former Elks building was recently purchased by a church group, and that's pretty much sitting vacant. We thought this is too significant of a parcel to have sit and underutilized, so we went ahead and purchased this. It's outside of the norm for a community, but we believe strongly in it. We received 5 proposals this last go around on the RFPs for Runnings relocation and expansion, 3 startup concepts for indoor entertainment centers, 1 mixed-use development. So we expect a recommendation to the City Commission on November 20th. We'll either go ahead with one of these proposals or we'll go back to our library, or our rail yard concept, which include the library and the event hall. Another building that the city owns is this building was acquired for the diesel fuel remediation we're seeking to sell. This was also out on the RFP. We received 3 proposals, startup physical therapy, a startup restaurant retail, and a Huntington Books refresh. We expect a recommendation to the city again on November 20th. This building was actually purchased by the Remediation Trust. When the diesel fuel spill happened, we're looking at ways to remediate. So this building has wells in the basement. to remove the diesel fuel. If you drive by it today, you would never know that. So it was very successful. Now we want to get it back on the market. And when we were talking with the governor, one of his big things, and he likes to pick on Fargo for this, is they build a high school, they build a new school, they build it on the farthest reach of the community. And you have to bring all the infrastructure and you have to provide all the services to get out to that far reach. And this is the former Mandan Junior High School building. When the middle school was built several years ago, this building was sold off. It was never owned by the city of Mandan, and it sat vacant and in pretty tough shape for the past 5 or 6 years. The Commonwealth companies came in and is investing currently $8.3 million, creating 39 affordable housing units, and occupancy is expected yet this year. This picture was taken last week, and if you drive by there today, it doesn't even look the same. They've done so much work to the exterior of it. It's a great thing, and it's a great thing that a lesson for both communities to learn from is when we plan for a new school and the abandonment of an old school, we need to look farther ahead that you can't just leave that building set there. You need to have a plan before that is taken out of the system, because it has a detriment on the community. So anything that happens in the future, we're working very closely with the school system to make sure that we transition everything for a better community. Mandan's population, if you look at this chart, since 2010 to 2017, we've gained quite a few people. It's a nice steady growth. It's something that we haven't seen big peaks and valleys, so we're very proud of that. It's up 21% from 2010. The first day school enrollment was up 6% in Mandan this year, creating more challenges. And if you look at that slide, Morton County's total is around 30,800 people, and of that, the city of Mandan has 22,228 people within the county, so about 8,500 people is all that reside in the county outside city limits. Our residential growth, here's something that we're very proud of. In 2018, I think we're already at 108 units. But if you look over the past 3 years, we haven't seen peaks and valleys. We've seen very nice, steady growth, and a lot of communities aren't seeing that. They're either way up or they're way down. One thing that we have going for us is we have good developers in the community, several developers, so we have several developments that are currently expanding and ready to put new homes in. So we're not landlocked, we're not stuck with one developer. They can go east, they can go west, and they can go in the middle of the community. So I think we have a really bright future. We'll talk a little bit about dollars and cents. Our local sales tax revenue, and I know this is minute compared to Bismarck, and that's something that both communities need to realize. In 2017, we had about $2.4 million in sales tax collections. In 2018, we're down about 12%. Mandan's economy is basically, we're a lot of energy, but we're a lot of ag, and the ag industry is suffering, so that means Mandan is suffering. Bismarck's is down a little bit, I believe, but they're a little bit more resilient than Mandan is because you have all the state agencies, the hospitals and things, so you have that advantage. But our lodging tax is up a little bit. The occupancy tax is down 25% there. Again, there's been so many hotels built in the two communities over the last few years, so we're not really seeing an influx of visitors. We're just spreading that around. Your 1% sales tax allocation, if you look at this pie chart, you'll see that we use 52% of the sales tax for property tax reduction, 29% for infrastructure, and 19% for economic development. So basically, we're using 80% of every sales tax dollar that we collect to reduce property taxes in one way or another. The property tax mill rate in mills, if you look at this chart again, you'll see a nice steady decline, which is always a good thing. We had a little bump in 2017 because some of our state funding didn't come through as we had expected and hoped for. And in 2018, we took a little bump because we added a police officer and also a new fireman. And you look at taxable valuations, it's a nice trend also. You start in low and you're going high. So the two charts should, in the real world and the right world, go the way that we're going. An interesting fact about the property tax rates, if you look at our police and fire departments, 100% and more of every dollar you pay to the city of Mandan goes to support just police and fire. All the other services are subsidized either by the state, federal government, or water and utility fees. So all the taxes that we collect in the city of Mandan, it doesn't even support police and fire. Here's a pie chart to say where your taxes go. 24% to the city of Mandan, 24% to the county, 41% to the school districts, and 10% to the Parks and Recreation Department. Water utilities, this one we bring up because we're right in the middle of this chart, both Mandan and Bismarck. I couldn't have sat here 10 years ago and told you the same thing because we were on the high end of this. So we've come a long way in the last 10 years and trying to keep rates reasonable and while still improving the infrastructure. City services, we've done a few things. We've had trouble keeping our police department fully staffed. I'm told as of December 10th, we will be fully staffed for the first time in, I'm gonna guess, 15 to 20 years. And one of them, the police retirement transitioned to a defined benefit package in 2016. Health insurance was the number one reason we were told that people were seeking employment elsewhere, so we changed that with a new family insurance benefit. And like it says in the bottom, we are gonna be fully staffed. We're adding a new evidence technician in 2019, and if you notice the call for services, 2015, 13,000, and we jumped up from there in 2016, and we're down a little bit in 2017. I think 2016 was basically from the protest. We think that was a spike. And this is a wonderful thing about our community. As you look around this room and all the people that sponsored this event, the police chief was talking with Mr. Bob Cooper one day and said, didn't realize we didn't have a canine unit in Mandan. And the chief, of course, blamed it on us and said, we're not giving them any money. So Mr. Cooper stepped up to the plate and donated $12,000. We have a $2,000 anonymous donation. So we're gonna have a trained canine to perform different things within the community. Mr. Cooper was great. He takes his dog to work every day, so he's an animal lover. He steps up to the plate all the time, just like many of you in your businesses do. We had several promotions. We promoted Deputy Chief Lori Flayton, Lieutenant Rick Whitaker, and April Bowman. I know Chief Ziegler's out in the audience tonight. I can't see him because of the bright lights, but thank you, Chief, for all you do and what you're doing to bring our staff up to a whole new level. This one's really exciting as they started the first year of the Police Explorer program to try to get young adults into the police field. I know everybody throughout the state, Mandan, Bismarck, Minot, Fargo, everybody's having trouble getting law enforcement officers. So we've had 13 different participants, ages from 14 to 20, from Mandan, Bismarck, and Morton County. This has been a very successful program, and I look for a bright future to this program. Fire prevention and protection, we're adding a full-time firefighter EMT in 2019. Again, I think in the budget we were asked for 8 additional firefighters, but that's the hard thing about being a community servant. You have to balance what you think you can afford and with the needs of what somebody's asking. So that's probably one of the tougher things, especially when it comes to police and fire. And if you look at the calls for service, they remain pretty steady. The majority of the calls are for EMT services, very few for structure fires. Here again, in that department, we changed the benefit package, so it allows retirement age 55 with a defined benefit. And everybody's favorite topic, recycling and garbage. I watched the last Bismarck Commission meeting, and I know that's always a hot topic in Bismarck also. Our program started in 2016. We've recycled about 1.5 million pounds to date. They're estimating between 75 and 100% of the people are actually participating weekly in that program. I'm not one of them, by the way. Household garbage totes were implemented in 2018. I remember back when I was a kid, the garbage men would pull up out to the curb. We had about a block long driveway. They'd walk the driveway. They'd open the garage door. They'd grab the garbage cans out, drag them out, bring them back. If there was snow in front of the garage door, they'd shovel a little bit of it, shut the garage door, go on their way. And then you got to the point where you had to drag it to the curb. It was miserable. You had to have, and then you have to go from the cans to their special cans. Now they come by with a truck, press a button. If your garbage tote isn't there, you can have your garbage. So, but we're very fortunate. We had a really good contract with Armstrong Sanitation, As long as we went to the totes, we were able to keep our rates very reasonable, and roughly 7,750 totes were delivered. We had a 5th annual community cleanup day, around 200 volunteers. And the really nice thing about this program this past year is there was a significantly less number of garbage and debris located throughout our community. So the community's getting a lot better at keeping it clean. Progress and plans. Demonstration projects. I know Mayor Balkan, you look at these slides and you just cringe too. So whatever you're going to do if you're a public service, don't ever put a roundabout in the downtown of your community. If you ever come out of church one day and there's a 90-year-old lady chasing you with a cane, run. But this stemmed from a sub-area study, and we knew we were never going to put these roundabouts in this location. It was just done to get public input and see what people thought of the project. Surprisingly, a lot of people liked it, and not surprisingly, a lot of people didn't like it. So there's no plans to do this on First Street. On Main Street, we did a few things with some curb bump outs. We are looking to try to go to a 2-lane Main Street on the west end from Collins West and try to gain our parking back on the south side of the street. We've learned from other communities, and some of the mistakes that have happened are some of the unfortunate consequences, and we're going to try to delineate these areas with bulb outs that are permanent and do a lot of different things with our lane marking so it isn't confusing. So thank you, Bismarck, for doing that first. It's made it a lot easier on Mandan. And we'll take a snapshot back to 2006. That's a snapshot of downtown Mandan in 2006 when we discovered diesel fuel under the city of Mandan. You look at the snapshot on the right, that's 2018. There's a few little plumes left there. All them little dots represent wells that are under the community. Roughly there's about 300 wells under the city of Mandan right now. About 22 miles of pipeline to try to recover that product. Most of their free product has been recovered so far. We're looking to, the system is shut down right now and they're monitoring it. So hopefully in 2019, it's going to start to be decommissioned and we'll be back on our way. So, water and sewer distribution, we've got about 8,800 feet of 38 water transmission line that we're replacing right now. It's currently ductile iron leading from the water plant, and that's been failing and breaking right under the refinery's property at this time, so we're looking to replace that. That's a very spendy project. We've got a stormwater master plan finalized and a lift station sanitary study completed. Upcoming projects, we've got a South Side Local Street Improvement District, a 19th Street multi-trail improvement, and a Northwest area water main replacement. This is replacing several 100 feet of bad water line that's been busting. In 2019, we're looking at North Dakota Department of Transportation is doing a major resurfacing of the interstate system. So we're going to have a lot of disruptions throughout not only Mandan but Bismarck. It's going to be a real challenge, especially around the 4th of July time. They're probably not going to allow us to shut down Memorial Highway like we did in the past for the 4th of July parade. So it's going to be a challenging 2019. The raw water intake, here again, with the changes of the Missouri River, we've seen a lot of sandbar movement and sediment changes or challenges. Construction's likely to start in 2019. This is a shared use facility. The city of Mandan and the refinery, Standard Oil, Amoco, Marathon, Tesoro, whatever it's going to be called today or tomorrow. It's been changing so fast, but they've been a great partner with the city of Mandan, and we have a shared use facility now. We're looking for a shared use facility in the future. It'll have 2 parallel lines to be constructed on some of the refinery property that they already own. So if one of our lines goes down, if the cities would go down, we could use the refinery's line. If the refineries would go down, they could use our line. It's a great project. And if you watch the discussions about the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Bridge, the city of Mandan loves the bridge, would love it to stay, but we're also very concerned that if it stays, it has some really bad impacts on the city of Mandan. Anytime you put a structure into the water, it changes the water flow. So we have this structure on the north side of that bridge that we're worried about. We have our wastewater outfall on the south side. We have the bays leading into Lakewood and Borden Harbor. And then we also have the outfall of the Hart River. So we're very concerned if this group is successful in keeping that bridge up, and they put more piers in the water, what effects that going to have on the city and all of the residents as far as not only water and sewer, but flooding. So that's one of the reasons we're vocal and mainly against that bridge staying in place if a new one's built. Looking ahead, pending commission approval, 2020-2022 downtown area water main replacement street improvements, 6th Avenue Southeast and 3rd Street single reconfiguration, Collins Avenue water reservoir replacement, Mandan Interchange and 1806 North project. We anticipate this for 2020. We would like to have stoplights at this intersection. The state's telling us, no, we don't meet warrants, we don't meet state warrants, we don't meet federal warrants. So in order to get it covered, we may wind up with a roundabout at this intersection, as long as it's big and it's got the right traffic flow. We're all for it. So with the Starion Sports Complex opening up there and all the activity that's happening to the north, we definitely need to do something there. About 90% of it is federal and state funded. But the costly part for the city of Mandan is we need to extend the water and sanitary sewer up to the north part. So that has to be done before this can be done. Public input opportunity on that to discuss it. It will happen November 15th at 5:30 at the Baymont Inns and Suites. So if anybody has problems with that intersection, please show up and voice your concerns. We're looking at some Main Street improvements like I talked about before, from Collins Avenue to 6th Avenue Northwest, relocate to 3 lanes, parking on the south side, trying to make it more pedestrian friendly. It'll be bid in 2019 for 2020 construction, largely again grant funded. We have a large gravel pit to the west of Mandan. We have a lot of truck traffic, and we really need to slow that down to get our pedestrians across the streets, make it safer. Traffic signal replacement project to coincide with that, largely again federal funded. Updated video detection equipment, and you'll be able to interconnect the system for synchronization. We're also going to lose a couple of stoplights on Main Street in Mandan that again we're not real happy about. One at 10th Avenue and the other one on, I believe, 1st Street. We've asked the state to reconsider. They've said no. It's a package deal. If you want the other ones replaced, you need to remove these two. So that'll be an interesting thing going into the future. Sanitary sewer master lift station upgrade. This is a major piece of our system again. Handles 60 to 70% of the city's wastewater. Replace the equipment in the existing facility, install water force mains to the wastewater treatment plant, possibly for 2020, 2021. And if you look at that, that goes all the way from the trailer courts on 3rd Street out to the bar out in Borden Harbor. So I can't think of the name, excuse me. The drink, there. Memorial Highway reconstruction, this one's been talked about. I mean, back when I was on the park board 30 years ago, they were talking about how this is going to happen, and then it gets bumped from 2008 to 2010 to 2012. Well, it's back on the table. It's programmed right now to go in 2 to 3 phases. They're looking at 1 to 2 years per phase, so this could be a 6-year project, and we're telling the state, we can't do this. We can't afford to have that happen. That's a major artery between our 2 cities. If you can fund a highway system in western North Dakota and get it done in 3 months, get this done in 3 months too. So we'll lose half of those businesses on Memorial Highway if this happens. And then another takeaway from that, once this happens, the state wants us to take control of all the snow removal and all the maintenance on Memorial Highway, and we're not real happy about that. So in some cases, we don't care if it gets delayed. Around town, we have public arts projects, thanks to the Chamber leadership team. It pays tribute to the state's musical heritage. There's 4 North Dakota Music Hall of Fame inductees, and this is located right by the BNSF tracks, right by the band shell in downtown Mandan. We have a very aggressive park district in the city of Mandan. If you know where Veterans Memorial Ballpark is, if you drive by there today, this is well underway. It'll have synthetic turf throughout the whole ballpark, new dugouts, press boxes, and the grandstands with wings. I know it's one of the few facilities in the state that'll actually have the synthetic turf, so it's quite the project. The Star Young Sports Complex, if you take a look at that, very successful. I think you look at the picture, and probably more successful than anybody had imagined because there's not enough parking currently. We're working with the park district as we speak to try to rectify that. Like I said, it's been very successful. Public skating participation's up. Ice rent has increased about 80%. It's now home to the University of Mary hockey program. Dakota Star is located in there, and they're up about 50 participants. So the demand is there. It's a great facility. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. And we could never have a State of the Cities address without talking about the Mandan Progress Organization. Great group of individuals dedicated to make things better. Mandan's always been known for its events and providing a good time with the 4th of July Rodeo, Oktoberfest, Buggies and Blues, Touch a Truck, Grill Fest, and coming up yet this month, Santa's Arrival. So thanks, Dell, and all the crew and all the volunteers and all the businesses that support all these events. And we'll get a little bit into education. If you look, education enrollment's up roughly 6%. Here again, a nice steady growth, but with that growth comes a lot of challenges and a lot of costs. Currently, the school board is seeking requests for architects for the Old Red Trail Elementary Edition, and they have future plans for elementary school in the Lakewood area, and they're even looking out to the future and looking at a high school. So there's a lot of things that could happen over our lifetime that'll have big effects in the city of Mandan. The school district, we have a great school district, great teachers, very active board members. Dr. Bitts is a great director. So I'd like to end this on a little note of dedication to the school and the job that you've done. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming today and listening to our comments. I look forward to working with Mayor Bakken and the city of Bismarck to grow our two communities and do the best we can together. So if we could have that last video, thank you.
I feel like Mandan has made me the person I am. I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't come to Mandan. I'm more welcoming to other people, and I just always feel like I'm part of a really big family.
Mandan, North Dakota is home to education opportunities that aim to make every student ready for college, career, and life. With both public and private schools to choose from, this is where students are inspired to succeed. This is achievement made in Mandan. Mandan Public Schools offer 6 neighborhood elementary schools where teachers work hard to provide personalized learning. Students are encouraged to collaborate, be creative, communicate, and think critically.
As a teacher here in Mandan, I really am encouraged to go beyond, come up with big projects, explore the unexplored.
Mandan Middle School is available for grades 6 through 8 and recently expanded to offer additional classrooms and year-round athletic space.
The teachers are my favorite part. They are amazing and know what they're doing.
Mandan High School consistently has ACT scores above the state and national averages and provides more than 40 athletic, music, and fine arts extracurricular activities.
What I like most is the opportunities and the culture. It's very open and collaborative, so I'm able to be in more than one activity because the coaches or the directors work together to make us be able to have all the opportunities we can in high school.
I have always felt that Mandan administrators and teachers know my kids. They know what's special and unique about them, and they challenge and support them based on where their strengths are.
11 career and technical education programs are also available for valuable vocational and work-based learning. And Mandan's education opportunities don't stop after high school. University of Mary, Bismarck State College, and other colleges and trade schools have nearby campuses.
Mandan Public Schools is big enough to provide a whole host of different offerings for our students, whether it's AP courses, project-based learning opportunities, and also we're small enough to really take the time to build the relationships with the families in this community and also with the students to try to meet the needs of the students where they're at.
The saying is where the best begins in Mandan, and as far as education goes, this is where the best begin.
I love everything. I love the people, I love the town, I love the school. It's just a great place.
To learn more about all the education opportunities in Mandan, visit cityofmandan.com.
that didn't work out so well.
Again, Brian, the IT.
I don't know if you guys were watching that video, but I showed it to my wife the other night, and she got kind of mad at me. And I never realized that you were in that video. Why wouldn't you tell me about that before you let everybody in the country know about it? I said, well, I just don't get it. I don't think I was in that video. And right before the State of the City's address this morning, I sent her a text, and I said I watched it again, and said, I just don't get it. She texted back, you're the dummy. So I guess that was me being an extra in that video.
Well, in case you couldn't see, is this on now? There we go. In case you couldn't see, when I stood up, my wireless mic just fell right off. So IT has gone right to hell this morning. But we're going to do this a little bit different. We're going to improvise a little bit. Gentlemen, I'm going to stand here and make this as comfortable as possible and ask you the questions that we've had submitted to us previously. To the chamber members out in the audience, prior to the event today, we gave everyone the opportunity, when they registered for the event, to submit a couple of questions. We've got about 10 minutes, Mayor Bakken, Mayor Helbling. I want to pose a couple of those questions that were given to us ahead of time and ask you to talk to them in the 10 minutes we have left today. So, Mayor Bakken, we're going to start off with you. The question that was posed to us was, as you mentioned earlier in presentation, today when Bismarck voters go to the polls, they will vote on City Measures 1, 2, and 3. If City Measure 1 does not pass, which would increase the half-cent sales tax and fund those major arterial projects, what are your thoughts and plans for how we as a community will address those major arterial roadway projects?
Well, first and foremost, it comes back to growing tax base. Through growing the tax base, you provide the opportunities to contribute more into the infrastructure needs for the community. So that would be first and foremost. The other part of this is the most fair and equitable tax, if you dare call a tax fair and equitable, is a consumption tax. So then we have to start looking at different mechanisms by which we can do that, whether it would be a gas tax or different avenues that would pursue that direction. But first and foremost, before you can start taxing, it's, you get back to the basics. You start doing what you're supposed to do with taxpayer dollars in the most equitable, efficient way possible, and then grow that tax base.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor Helbling, the question specific to the city of Mandan posed to us by members prior to today's events was, during your presentation, you touched on a lot of things regarding quality of life. How do we attract more folks to Mandan to increase that sales tax that's generated in the community? What are your ideas, or what are your thoughts in terms of how do we attract even more people to wine, to dine, to shop, do all the things that generate sales tax revenue in the city of Mandan? What are your thoughts as to how we generate more of that?
Well, Mandan's in a unique position, and we don't have all the things that come naturally like the city of Bismarck does. They have a large sales tax base. You've got the state facilities, which are all located in Bismarck. We don't have the colleges like all the other larger communities in the state have, Minot, Dickinson, Williston. We don't have that in Mandan. We're focused right now on events. The events are really bringing people to Mandan. We're known for our events. We want to make sure them events stay strong. We're really trying to grow our retail base right now. We don't have the big shopping centers that other communities do, being we're located so close to Bismarck, and most of that is already there. So it's a real challenge to try to get larger retail into the community. So we've really been focused on homegrown and trying to build from within Mandan, take the strengths and weaknesses that we have, identify those, and try to build from within. And we've been working out really well for the past 10 years or so. But in the future, we're going to have to dig deeper. The infrastructure is a huge challenge, and what happens with the Bismarck taxes today has a huge impact on Mandan, because if Bismarck is available or enabled to pass all these measures, they're going to have I'm going to just use a boatload of money coming in that they're able to spend on infrastructure. Well, Mandan sales tax collections, even if we added 1% to the sales tax, only brings in $2.1 million on a good day. If we add utility fees like is being talked about, if we add a $20 a month to all of our utility fees, that only brings in about $2.4 million. So there's really not enough money to get a lot of these infrastructure projects completed. So infrastructure is going to be a big thing for Mandan, how it's paid for. I know the legislature is focused on getting rid of special assessments, but if we raise our utility fees and do this other things, we're just going to pay for the engineering on these projects and not going to be able to complete the project because every project seems to start out at $10 million.
This is a question for both mayors that has been asked numerous times at the Chamber Board and a number of our committees as well, that is currently between Bismarck-Mandan, Burley, Morton County, we have about 2,200, 2,300 open jobs. As you saw earlier, the number of jobs in this economy, there are now 1,100 more jobs in this economy at this point this year than there was at the same point last year. So the community is growing, as you both illustrated in your presentations. The key to filling all those jobs will be not only to retaining talent, but to attracting new talent to this community. We've talked a lot about quality of life. You both touched on it during your presentations. What more do you think that we can do as communities to enhance that quality of life, whether it be downtown, on the fringe, wherever it is? What more can we as Bismarck-Mandan and the surrounding area do to enhance that quality of life, to retain talent and attract new talent to fill those open jobs?
You know, from my perspective, you know, when you look at developing the waterfront and getting those opportunities there, that's a piece that spans both North Bismarck, South Bismarck, and downtown Bismarck, because that would be integral to all of those sectors of the community. When you have those opportunities to grow that development and grow that tax base and bring outside money into the community, whether it's through tourism dollars or, you know, those vacation dollars, to me, it's such a missing piece with our community, afforded what we have with the Missouri River. That's huge. The other piece of that is, like I mentioned in my presentation, is, you know, I want Bismarck first and foremost, and you know, I'll throw Mandan in there as well. Where do you want to raise your family? You know, kids leave, people leave with different opportunities. You know, I've done it myself with leaving the state of North Dakota. I always keep coming back because it's North Dakota. This state is amazing. This community is amazing. When you have those opportunities and put all those pieces in place with the housing, the jobs, and can bring that workforce back in and bring those former members of the community back into the community, there's a lot of advantage in there. Not only from the perspective that we're filling those jobs, we're making ourselves more attractive for other employers, but we're also bringing in new ideas and new concepts and enough to tweak the thought process to move forward. You know, I tell it to staff all the time, the last thing I ever want to hear is, you know, this is the way we've always done it. Well, that doesn't work today.
I think one thing we got to focus on, both Bismarck and Mandan and Bismarck, is we got to tell our story. We have so many great things that are happening right in these two communities, and we're, like I said in my presentation too, we're taking them all for granted. We need to do a lot better job of telling people what we have here, focusing on the quality of life and all the things and the events that we have that we sit here and we take for granted. It just happen all the time naturally. You go to other parts of the country, they don't have what we have. They don't have the high-class education systems that we have. They don't have the sporting facilities that we have. They don't have the events that we have. They don't have the waterfront that we have. And to top that off, we have some great employers. MDU Resources, the refinery, NISC, Bobcat. I mean, we need to tell our story a lot better than we're telling it, and we probably need to break off from the rest of the state in telling that story. It doesn't always have to be about Fargo or about Minot. We need to focus on Mandan and Bismarck and promoting ourselves better and learning to appreciate more what we have right here and right now.
Both mayors, first want to thank you very much for your time today. I want to thank you and your staffs and your commissions, everyone for your incredible service to our community. It is not an easy thing to stand up and raise your hand and do what you do. Now going forward, before I leave the stage, one final question to both of you. In short, we've talked a lot about infrastructure, quality of life. You touched on numerous points during both of your presentations. In short, what is that one priority? What is that one thing that we haven't touched on today going forward in 2019 that you think you'll find yourself focusing on the most?
I think in Mandan's side, it's going to be retail recruitment. We've done a good job of getting restaurants in. Granted, we've had to go outside of the norms of what a city commission usually does, but we got to do better with our retail recruitment and get in more retail into our community.
For me, it's relationships. You know, the relationship with Mandan, the relationship with Burley, Morton County, our local legislators, making sure that we're all on the same page with the same singular focus to make sure that we can move forward. Because if we're not all working together, that's a big uphill battle.
Folks, would you help me thank both Mayor Bakken and Mayor Helbling for their time this morning? All right, folks. Well, that brings us to the end of our event today. I do want to give one big shout out to our presenting sponsor, Midco, our gold sponsors, AE2S, Bismarck-Mandan Board of Realtors, KLJ, Liberty Business Systems, MDU Resources, and Alteg, and our event sponsors, Aetna, Bartlett and West Basin, B&D, Houston Engineering, as well as Sanford Health. And a big thank you to our media sponsor, HB Sound and Light. It's not their fault they broke the mic. They did a fantastic job. Remember, today's election day. Get out and vote. If you don't vote, you don't get to complain. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.